Welcome to Pig Pods. We give you actionable insight and stories behind real-life success wherever you go. Here are your hosts, Angelos and Mo.
Welcome to Pig Pods, your success podcast. I'm Angelos.
And I'm Mo.
Today we'll be discussing the fascinating subject of pricing and busting some commonly held myths. Our special guest today is Peter Hill, director at Mark Holt and Co, who wrote the book on pricing. Quite literally, his book is called Pricing for Profit.
Hello Peter, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
First of all, can you tell us a little bit about the book and how you came to write it in the first place? What were the origins?
As a business, we did a lot of projects with clients of ours who wanted to make more money, so we started to get under the skin of them, work out what they were doing right, what they were doing wrong. And what's interesting is most businesses have the same issues. We found the same issues, the same problems, the same challenges. So we started to do projects, we started to run seminars, and we got a bit of a reputation with the banks for getting messages across in plain English, no jargon, in a way that small business owners could understand. So they asked us to do a seminar, Lloyds Bank I think it was, in Wales at Celtic Manor, a couple of hundred people talking about a wide range of issues, not just pricing, but a wide range of issues. And at the end of it, a lady came up to me and said, you ought to write a book. I went, yeah, of course. And she said, no, that's what I do. I help technical authors, business authors get published. Naively, I thought you write a book and then you hawk it around and somebody says, yeah, we'll buy it off you. But the way it actually works is you put a synopsis together, this is what I want to cover, this is what I want to do, this is who it's aimed at, this is the language style we're going to use. And if the publisher likes it, they pay you to write it, which is what happens. You went and got a couple of deals, I took one, signed a contract, and they said, yeah, 200,000 words by November.
Just very quickly, Peter, for those of you who don't know who Peter is, could you just very quickly summarise what exactly the services that you provide and how that can benefit people, please?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm for my sins, a chartered and certified accountant, which you don't tell people on holiday because that's a conversation stopper. But so I'm trained as an accountant. I'm a partner in Mark Holt and Co. We do all the things you'd expect accountants to do: audit, accounts, tax, and we're all general practitioners. We do a mixed bag of everything. Over the years, as a firm, we've started to get more involved in how businesses make money, not just how much have they made and how much tax can we save them, but actually how do they go about doing business. And therefore we've developed a number of case studies and projects, etc. But at the heart of it, we are accountants, we're number crunchers, we analyse the business, we find out where money's made, where money's lost, and then you put disciplines, procedures, processes in place to make more.
So on that topic, can you give us an example of a common pricing issue that listeners might relate to?
Yeah, sure. I would say in the majority of businesses I go into, if I said to them, you can make more money if you put your prices up 10%, they go, oh yeah, but I'd lose customers. And they're probably right, they might lose customers, but that's the wrong question. The question is, if you put your prices up 10%, how many of your customers could you afford to lose before the extra profit you've made is wiped out by customers voting with their feet? That's the maths question that we as analysts understand. So the emotional reaction of, I can't put my prices up because I'll lose customers, overtakes the maths question, which is, well, how much can I put my prices up before I lose too many customers? And similarly, they'll go, hey, if we drop our prices, we'll have more customers, we'll sell more stuff. Okay, you might, but the question is, if you drop your prices by 10%, how much more do you need to sell to get back to where you started?
So so I did economics at uni a long time ago. Is this the price elasticity of demand? Is
Absolutely
right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Price elasticity is quite simply how reactive your product or service is to price. So if it's a very price sensitive product, a very small change could impact massively on sales.
And when you do that, do you actually map that out, and you can draw a graph of exactly?
No, because the reason we don't is I've never seen a book that's got that data in there, but every business is unique, because whilst what you sell might be similar, your service levels, your customer care skills, your people's personalities are different. So the only way to find out the elasticity of demand in any business is to test it. Put the prices up, see what happens. Put the prices down, see what happens. And nobody does that.
So Peter, you've gone into various businesses across many different trades, disciplines, etc., and you sat down with them, and one of the things you would say is raise your prices.
Yeah.
Apart from the shock and horror of that very statement, do you find that businesses have that degree of bravery, flexibility to actually implement that? And what have their results been?
Well, do they have the bravery? Rarely. The ones we have the most success with are those who are in slight difficulties, who feel they have no choice. They might be, at risk of failure if they don't do something, so they just do what we tell them, essentially. Businesses who are doing okay, who could do better, have to be persuaded quite carefully to play around with their prices. They are worried about the impact of doing something to it. So that's the biggest challenge, human nature, the fear of pricing. If you put the prices up, you will undoubtedly make more money. We've never had that. If you imagine every single business, there is a glass ceiling to how much you can charge, and you don't know what it is because it's invisible, it's a glass ceiling. Your customer knows, but they only tell you at the point where you go through that by not buying from you. So for every business, there is almost always a gap between what you have the confidence to charge and what your customers would pay.
And it is part of the work you do actually what the perceived value is, as much as so the perceived value of the product or service you're delivering, as well as just because you can put price up, but you have to make it appear that the thing's more valuable as well.
With some projects, in most businesses, they're delivering fantastic value.
Right.
They're doing a great job. They just don't have the courage to charge that price. And the other thing they don't do is tell the customer. They get into a dialogue with the customer, which is, well, that's the price, how much, discount, negotiate. They don't go, well, hang on a minute, when do you want it? What colour do you want? Do you want the gold standard, the bronze standard? Have we told you about our quality conditions and all those other features and benefits? They never come up in conversation. And if the customer doesn't know about them, the only information you give them to make a decision on is price, then they make their decision on price. And that's partly what we do, is not raising their quality standards, but making those more visible, discussing them with customers, publicising them better.
Like a PR exercise as well.
Yeah, the customer doesn't understand it unless you tell them.
Yeah.
There's a great chapter in the book called Mythbusters.
Yeah.
And I thought I knew a little bit about pricing, but the reality is it's a very historic thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of psychology behind it, but also a lot of case studies with businesses and real life examples. So I've picked out 3 points from that chapter I'd like to run through with you. The first one is, can we focus on the loss leader? What is the loss leader and does it work?
Well, the idea of loss leader is you have a core product, baked beans or bread, or one of my clients, electrical cable, something which is a core product which drags customers in the front door. So if those are cheap and cheerful, people go, oh, let's go there. And then the objective is they buy lots of other stuff. So that's the principle. In my experience, it doesn't work. And I was mentioning to you just before we started that we had a big business with 10 branches, and the beauty of that business is we had 10 comparables. It's like doing a science project. You need a control sample to compare what you do to see what the difference is. And there was one branch notorious for loss leaders on their product. They were ridiculously cheap. And his argument was, oh, but we sell a lot more of this other stuff. Of course, we had 9 other branches to say, well, they don't sell it that cheaply. How many of these products do they sell by comparison? How many of these products do they sell? And the numbers prove the point, which is customers were actually going into that branch to buy that product, cheap as chips, and then going elsewhere to buy everything else. But what I would say is, it's a maths question. It might work, but hoping it works is the wrong answer. You've got to do the maths. If you can prove that by selling that product 10% cheaper than anyone else, that you are selling ancillary products as a result, and that's just working out what's the average basket that people buy, what's the average spend per customer. If you can see that dropping that price raises it, great.
I guess with the loss leader as well, with the kind of e-commerce and things like that, it's not difficult to just buy one thing from one place and then go somewhere else for something else. It's not like you have to go there and get your whole week shop or whatever. You can shop around. So
you're right, but customers are fundamentally lazy.
Okay.
They want to buy all in one place.
Yeah. Okay.
If you make that impossible, because that product's really cheap but that product's really expensive, they will go elsewhere. If you make it a little bit easier for them to get it all in one go and they go, oh, that's about right, they will buy it from one place. The interesting point you're talking about online sales is none of the businesses I deal with can compete with Amazon. Stop trying. You can't win on price. You can win on service and get a higher price because your service is better and your quality is right and your delivery is fantastic, but you can't beat Amazon on price. So stop trying.
From a customer's point of view, Peter, does it devalue the brand by having loss leaders present?
I always think it does. I think if you undersell what you do full stop, doesn't matter how you do it, whether it's loss leaders or anything else, eventually your customers will go, they can't be very good because they're too cheap. There is a lot of the book had some research about psychology, how people make buying decisions. And actually, when you have the confidence to charge a higher price, quite often customers go, well, they must be good because they're expensive. That must be a good product because it's more expensive than the other one.
I call it the Apple effect.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There is an assumption of quality based on the price they have the confidence to charge. And if you don't have the confidence to charge it, there is a reverse assumption of poor quality that they can't be very good because they're too cheap.
Yeah, we're looking at phones now, £1,000 for a phone. That's incredibly expensive, and yet people are lining up to buy it. It's just incredible.
I agree. It's not a phone anymore, though, is it? It's a computer. That's the reality. What you can get in the average phone these days is better than the first laptop I had, however many years ago that was.
Do you ever find you go into companies where the recommendation is to keep the prices low or put the prices down and just really do volume of sales?
There is an argument for high volume businesses who can be cheaper than anyone else, and actually they just shift so much stock that that's okay. Now, if you're Asda, Walmart, or Tesco's, yes, great, crack on. Not for the average businesses, because there's this myth about economies of scale. Oh, if we just get to this size, our overheads will be proportionately less, and we'll make more money. So if we double in size, we'll make more money. It never happens. They double in size and make half as much. That's the reality, because running a normal business is very complicated, and you have to recruit people, and you have to invest, and you have to have buildings. The right way to make money is to get the right price, whatever that might be, and that's not always the highest price, that's about the right price for what you do.
Moving on to the second point, Peter, the importance of the number 9. So 9 times out of 10, we go to shops and we see $29.99, $59.99, as opposed to the 30 or the 60. And there's a psychological aspect to that, I guess, that a lot of us know about, but there's also a historical reasoning behind that as well. Do you want to just discuss both sides?
Yeah, well, you're both too young to remember it, but in the good old days, if I went to a shop and bought a pair of jeans for 10 quid, that shows how long ago it must have been, but if I bought a pair of jeans for 10 quid, I didn't need a receipt because I couldn't take it back. The returns policy was, no, you paid for it, unless it's faulty, tough luck. So I couldn't take it back. And therefore I would usually walk up to the till with a £10 note in my hand, and if I could, I'd just give the 10 quid to the girl at the till and walk out with my jeans, because I didn't need a receipt, there was no returns policy, I'd just move on, because that was quicker. Didn't want to write a cheque, as you could have done. The problem for the business was, if it wasn't run through the till, that £10 sometimes went straight in the pocket of the person working behind the till. So the strategy was, what's the highest price we can charge that requires the person at the till to give change to the customer? And that would have been $9.99 and a half in the good old days. Then it was $9.99 and a half p disappeared. And all that really was a cash control mechanism to force people to put it through the till, even if they then put that penny in the charity box, which most people would have done. That's how it originated, and now it's just become a comfortable price. It's just become a price that we understand and accept. And a lot of research says people hate it. They'd rather it's 10 quid, stop telling me it's $9.99. What's more interesting about the number, though, is when I was doing that research, is there's a lot of research that talks about the specifics of the number. So if I wanted to sell something for about £10, if it's a round sum number, that's negative. They think you've guessed the price. If it was $9.99, they're marginally annoyed that you think you're being clever with psychology. But if it was $9.73, they would go, that sounds like someone's worked that out and that is an accurate price. If it was £10.57, that same mentality would arise. So the very specific numbers give the customer credibility that someone has worked out that price, and it's fair, it's right, it's calculated. When it's round sum numbers, you've guessed it, you've made it up, and you're trying to squeeze more money out of me than I want. So that's not necessarily dropping the price to a lower round sum specific number. That sometimes is, if you make it £10 and 3 pence, they might go, oh, should we just call it a tenner? Yes, but they believe the price. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But also we have to look at the psychology of numbers as well.
Yeah.
Various different countries believe different things and have certain fondness of certain numbers.
Yeah.
Do you want to just walk us through a little bit?
Yeah, there are some cultures where 7 is a positive number, so a 7 in your price. In fact, I talked about that at one of the seminars, and a business afterwards told me that they'd gone back and every single quote they did, they made end in a 7, and they measured their conversion rates and they got more quotes than they did previously. Now, I'm not saying it was just 7, I think it was about the accuracy of the number, as opposed to they would do a £10,000 building job and say £10,000. Now they've said £10,007. So I don't think that was entirely down to the 7, some of that was just a more accurate number. But there are certainly cultures where numbers have a bigger impact in different places. That's the reality. All of our cultures have a different attitude to numbers. Interestingly, when I do a seminar and we have a feedback form that says score us out of 10, if you don't give them guidance, probably 90% of the scores will be a 7. Because they're sat there thinking, if I say a 6, someone might ask me what I didn't like about it. And if I say an 8, they might go, oh, what was the best bit? If I say a 7, no one asks me any questions.
Safe ground.
Yeah, so we often say, right, score us however you think, but you can't use 7. If you think we're a 7, you must downgrade us or upgrade us. And it just requires people to think. That's the key.
Amazing. Sorry, I was just in trance. Like, yeah, that's a really good point. Actually, I get that. So in my mind, and I think what a lot of people think is, every customer really matters. So kind of turn customers down or turn them away at your peril.
Yeah.
What's your kind of take on that?
That's definitely not true, and there are lots of reasons why we would, in our own business or in client business, recommend that you get rid of some customers. There are customers we have worked with over the years that we don't like. It doesn't matter how much money they're paying me, I don't want to get out of bed in the morning and go and work for people I don't like. The energy that releases by getting rid of challenging customers, and most businesses I have that conversation with, which is, let's sack a few of your rubbish customers, they instantly know who they are. They know who the people are that sap the life out of their day, and it doesn't matter how much money they're making out of you because they're stopping you from going and finding better customers. So that's an emotional and reputational issue. In terms of the financial issues of is every customer equal? No, they're not. I'm doing a project at the moment for a business down in Cornwall, big business, multi-million-pound business, and we analyse their customer list from those who spend the most to those who spend the least. And normally you would expect the bottom 20% of the customer base to be, a very small amount of turnover. In this case, the bottom 50% of their customers was 2% of their turnover. Now, you don't have to be a mathematician at all to know they can't be making money on that. The cost of servicing those customers, the cost of answering the phone, producing the quote, if those 50% by number are only 2% of the turnover, how much time, energy, resource would you liberate by sacking all of those customers for only losing 2% of your turnover? Now, again, that's a brutal approach, but that principle, which is some of the customers you have simply don't generate enough returns for the effort they are taking out of your organisation. Now, maybe they will tomorrow, so you can't sack them immediately. Maybe they have in the past, in which case it might just be a quiet period. But if you do the analysis, undoubtedly you will find in most businesses a chunk of customers where they are never going to make money.
Do you think that should be a standard analysis that all businesses should do?
Oh yeah, we do that in every project we run. That's one of the first challenges that we go through is let's understand where money is made and lost. And that is product analysis, which products make you money, customer analysis, a little bit on suppliers, because some suppliers aren't playing the game properly. So that financial analysis, which is where does the money leak out of our organisation, that's certainly one of those tests, is to say which customers make us money.
Do you find that that's a challenge? The first challenge in itself is actually the availability of data and the readiness of the
yeah.
data.
I mean, it's easier now than it was 20 years ago because the data is often in the computer system. It's there. No one's getting it and interpreting it and doing anything with it. But yeah, that is certainly our biggest challenge, is we want to understand how the business is operating and no one's using that data. If they're a reasonable business, you can go and interrogate the systems and gather it. But if you can't get it, you've got to do a period of review where you actually work out what's happening before you can make decisions.
You go into businesses, Peter,
Yeah.
Essentially as a consultant, really, I would imagine, and you analyse everything and then you put them on steroids. You really, you make sure that they are operating at peak efficiency and making the best decisions they can, whether it's with regards to their pricing, their value proposition, etc., etc. Can you give a few examples of the consultancy work that you've done and some of the results that you've seen from that work?
Yeah, I mean, in the early days, we were doing projects for £5,000 on relatively small businesses, and they might have, made 20 grand more profit. They were delighted. They made, 3 times what we charged them for it. And as the businesses have got bigger that we work with, then those numbers have got bigger. So a wide range of businesses. sadly, frustratingly, often those businesses only come to us when they are in trouble. And they're looking for help because they realise, they've woken up and realised they're on a slippery slope and they've got to do something to halt that decline. And unfortunately, often it's too late for us to get involved in that business. They're great clients if you do get them because they just do what they're told. You say do this, they do that because they know they have little choice. And some of those businesses, therefore, the success has been they're still here. They've survived. We've stemmed the bleeding and enabled them to do the right things and make money. Some of the larger businesses, probably the largest project we ever worked on was a £10 million business making about £500,000 of profit, and their profits doubled within a year of our involvement. And we were talking earlier on about the big issue for them was discounting. Every single person, and I mean every person from the cleaner to the managing director, was able to give a discount off the products that they sold to any customer for any reason without challenge. And the big thing for them is they didn't know what that number was. They were all giving this discount away. Nobody knew how much it was. We did the analysis, we did the research, and we calculated it was about £6 million a year. So the turnover was 10, but it should have been 16, and they gave away 6 in discounts. By managing that problem, we found £500,000 of extra profit.
That's incredible. When you told me that story, I was just in shock that they weren't measuring or monitoring that level, and the fact that they were just literally giving away £6 million.
Well, the shock is that's a big number, but that's not. I've never yet met a business in 30 years who measures the amount of money they give away, negotiating the price to what they actually charge. Every business reports the actual invoice value, not what they hope to charge. They only report the invoice value. So no one is recording that discount figure. No one knows what that figure is. And in lots of businesses, it may not have been the 6 million, that was a big example, but in lots of businesses, that's a significant chunk of their profit that they have allowed people to give away with no rules, no condition, no strings, no guidance, no training. If you put somebody on the front of a business counter who's allowed to give discounts and don't teach him how to do that, well, no wonder he's giving it away. Because when he gives a customer a 10% discount, the customer smiles at him, makes his day better, doesn't cost him anything.
That point was really well made in the fact that the customer sales advisors, if that's what we're going to call them, they're not necessarily qualified or trained, like you said, to offer these discounts. The decision should be made up much, much higher up in the chain.
These are strategic decisions. These are policies that businesses should set. Where do we want to stand in the marketplace? Do we want to be seen as high-end, high-quality, high-price, but we've got to deliver on that service level? Do we want to be seen as mid-market or a bit cheaper and our service standards are in that range? That's a strategic decision from the business owners to where do we wish to sit. And they're not making it strategically, that's the point. Once you've made that decision, then you have to instruct, train, guide your people to do what you have decided you want done. Don't let them make it up every day as they go along, because they're not trained to do that. They don't have that skill set.
On that point, do you think discounting devalues your kind of value proposition, or is there a place for it?
There is a place for it. I think uncontrolled discounting absolutely damages your reputation. If somebody says how much is it, and you say it's 100 quid, and they go, nah, come on then. All right, it's 80 quid. You instantly told them you're about to rip them off for 20 quid. So it has to be managed and controlled. Does it work? Yes. My wife is notorious for saying, it was half price, so I bought 2. But we didn't need the first one, so you haven't saved us anything. But it does work. And again, it comes back to it's a mathematical thing. It works if you've added it into your pricing structure to be able to give it away. There's a lovely sign in a shop window in town from a carpet fitters, and it says, we can't give you 50% off because we didn't add 50% on. It drives me nuts as an accountant, because actually what he means is we didn't add 100% on. It's a massive. But I get his point. I can't give you a discount because I haven't inflated my prices originally to be able to do so. The big furniture stores who go 50% sales, we all know they simply doubled the price to be able to give 50% off. But it works. Psychologically, people think they've got a bargain and they do spend money they might not have spent. But it's about building it into your pricing structure. I still think that cheapens a brand. You become a sort of, I'm a discounter. So my preference is always not to give discounts, but it's okay provided your pricing structure's got that built into it.
They're supposed to sell it at the higher price for some period, but you do wonder where they're actually advertising that higher price.
Well, again, I did the research on one particular store, and you'd find a sofa sold or advertised for sale for 28 days in Outer Hebrides, and then they were allowed to say it's now discounted because it has been on sale for 28 days somewhere. And actually, they might sell 1 or 2 of them at that price, Because interestingly, it comes back to the point we were talking about is some customers will pay top dollar because they're top dollar customers. They buy gold price everywhere they go because they're gold customers. They buy the most expensive cars, the most expensive watches, because money is not the issue for them. And they therefore buy the best things because they're most expensive. They're not making a value for money decision, they're making a status decision. So maybe somebody does buy that sofa for £2,000 and then everyone else gets it for £1,000 with a 50% off sale.
Fantastic. Peter, we ask everyone that comes on the podcast, what does success mean to you?
I guess there's perhaps a misconception that success is about profit, about money. It isn't. Success for me is I come to work and work with clients that I like. I do work that I enjoy. I'm a great believer that if you do those things, financial success will follow. So if you're good at what you do and you enjoy what you do and you're passionate about what you do, then the money will come in somewhere down the line. So for me, success, I guess, is as simple as I get out of bed on a Monday morning and go, yay, it's a work day, you know. And we like working for the clients we work with. I have seen enough clients over the years to know that financial success often comes at a price. You know, it really does. You know, I think I mentioned to you earlier on, one of the suggested titles with the book was Price of Success. And the concern was that was about what things we give up in order to achieve success. And I've seen that many, many times. So it's not about the money, it's about, I say to my kids all the time, find a job you love, you never work a day in your life. You know, and that's how I feel in terms of our business.
I think that's a really good point, Peter. Do what you love and the money will
It
follow.
will, absolutely. And in a business context, do what you're good at, stand your ground, we're brilliant at this, therefore we're worth that, people will pay it.
And perhaps that's the subject of a future podcast.
Yeah.
You know, the price of success, and just walking through some examples of where you've seen people make sacrifices but achieved great success. So yeah, that would be really interesting. Peter, I want to thank you for your time today. It's been really, really interesting talking with you, and I'm sure listeners at home have gained real value. How do they get into contact with you, and should they want to buy your book, where can they buy it, please?
Well, they can buy the book on Amazon. It's available on Amazon. You can get it in Kindle format, hardback format, paperback. That was one of the challenges I had, is they wouldn't let me set the price, because Amazon are very funny about price, because it's up for, I think it was $26.99. I'm going, have you not read my book? You shouldn't have 99.
Oh, the irony.
Oh, the irony, absolutely. I get lots of clients saying, can't I have a free copy, including you know, can I have a free copy? And I go, it's a book on pricing, I can't give it away. But you can get it on Amazon, that's the easiest place to get it. If you do get it and read it, testimonials do help, they do sell books, so please put a review on there if you would. If they want to get in contact with me, they can contact me through Mark Holt and Co, send me an email, pick up the phone. I've had a couple of people who've read the book who rang up and said, I didn't really get that point, but it applies to my business, can you help? But you know, I don't mind giving an hour or two over the phone and pointing in the right direction. So yeah, pick up the phone, send me an email, or you know, the contact details I think are in the book, so by all means do that.
So just to remind listeners, that's Peter Hill, and the book's called Pricing for Profit.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you again, Peter. But we want to know your thoughts at home, your experiences on pricing. Drop us an email on hello@pig.network or get in touch via our social media channels.
Thank you for listening to Pig Pods, your success podcast. Click subscribe, leave us a review, and we look forward to your comments in the Pig Pod Facebook community. I've been Angelos.
And I've been Mo.
And see you again on the next exciting Pig Pod.
You've been listening to Pig Pods. Click subscribe for more incredible content. More details can be found at www.pig.network.